sitting here with my main man, Paul Bono. Right now, we are going to talk a little bit not about fitness. Jason Leydon, what's your take on the current economical status of our government and how it responds to the fiscal year coming up?
Hello, Spaces. I think it's about managing stress. I think everything comes down to stress management.
And now, our sponsor, FitAid.
But not really. But yes.
All right, we ready? Yeah. All right. Take a couple more sips.
I'm good. Ask me a question.
Awesome. Hi, guys. This is Angelo Cisco with It's Not All About Fitness, and I'm with my co-host,
Paul Bono.
And today we're with Jay Leydon out of CrossFit Milford. This is a very special podcast for both Paul and I'm sure, because Jason is not only somebody we admire in the CrossFit community, he is also somebody that has mentored both of us on many different levels. So a public thank you, I think, is in order, Jason, for always being there to support us, especially me. I don't know if my journey would have even turned out half as good without you. Today we're going to talk with Jason a little bit about kind of his journey and how he's become such a well-known coach inside of CrossFit, how his gym has become so established, and then also, too, about program design and things of that nature. A lot of people are trying to get more in that space, and I think there's a lot of people in the CrossFit world and community that have taken this expert role. I know that this opinion is a little bit biased, but I don't know if there's anybody better than Jason with bringing it all together as far as CrossFit.
Allostasis.
There it is. Perfect.
That's a crazy intro, but I first want to just state for the record that I'm extremely proud of the both of you. I think it's been amazing watching you guys each grow over the past 4 and 3 years, where your guys' journeys have taken you. Angelo, with what you're doing in Chicago with all your CrossFit and how well-versed you're becoming, not only as a coach, but as a business owner and marketer. Paul, your journey out to Denver after crushing the games last year and just kind of like finding yourself, and each of you guys' journeys. I think you guys have also become teachers to me, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of like this never-ending circle of learning. So thank you, guys.
I think we could cut it there, guys. Thanks for watching. No. All right, that was good. I hope you guys got something out of there. So first, let's talk a little bit about your very beginning. I know, just tell us how CrossFit Milford kind of got started, how that direction went, and give us a little background on that.
So, I think we take it way back. I went to college for phys ed and health, and it's what I always did. Then my main goal was playing basketball. So everything I did throughout college was geared towards basketball, was geared towards my dream of trying to get overseas to play. So I got overseas to play basketball, and as I was doing that, I remember my senior year, and I came to a fork in the road. And the fork in the road was my professor went to Ohio State. So I was either going to go to Ohio State to get a master's degree in exercise science, or I was going to go to a basketball tryout to get an agent. So I chose the latter. I chose not to go to college, graduate school. So I don't have any regrets. I went to Boston. I went to Utah first, then I went to Boston. I got an agent, and through my agent, I then went out to Holland. And with inside there, I got a contract. Now, I was playing overseas, not for a long time, not for a long stint, but my main goal was to get an agent and to get over there, which I did. And then I got injured. And there's no sexy thing in my injury. It's not like I went up and dunked on someone and tore a rotator cuff or like crossed someone over and then broke my ankle. It's nothing cool. Simple fact of slipping and putting a lawnmower over my foot, which put me in the hospital for 3 weeks and a potential amputee of my foot, which is not, but that kind of is what ended my basketball career. So I was at that stage in my life, and at that point I was kind of like lost, like I had no idea where my life was going to go. Because
how old were you around that time?
I was when I graduated college, because right from college I went overseas. So 22, something like that, 23 maybe. But I was lost, right? So everything, and this is something I talk about a lot with athletes. No matter what your path is, if you want to be great at something, you have to become selfish. You do. So my whole life was very selfish. It was very self-driven. Everything was about me. Everything was about the goal of getting overseas to play basketball. But that's what drove me. And then it was over. But it was over like before I was expecting it to be over, so there's no plan. It was kind of like, oh man, I remember I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and then after the hospital, I was on my parents' couch for like 2 months, 3 months. Like I had like this whole vacuum hooked up to my foot. It's like I couldn't even walk, right? And I remember I just graduated, so when I could finally start walking around, I was like, what? It's like I was lost, completely lost. And I think every athlete goes through this. You look at like professional football players that put on a ton of weight when they get done playing football, like run through money, or you look at these high-level athletes who, when their journey ends, they're young, and it's kind of like it's like searching for like what am I gonna do now? Because to get to that point, that's the only thing you can do. If you're gonna be a high-level athlete, no matter what sport you're in, like that is the only thing that you can focus on and do and be good at. So you come to the point, and it's like, well, now what am I gonna do? It's like, so I went through a stint of like riding motorcycles. I did jiu-jitsu for like 3 or 4 years. I was kind of like, I was just searching for like something to kind of grab onto. I think at that point I also went into the financial industry, but not because it's what I wanted to do. It's because I was just like, I had my degree in phys ed and health, and I was like, at that point CrossFit wasn't, no one knew what CrossFit was. Like CrossFit just started. There's maybe like 2 gyms in the world. I knew I didn't want to become a personal trainer at a big gym. Like I was at that point I was like 26 or whatever. I'm not gonna like sit around be a trainer like Fitness Edge, So so my now wife was working at a financial industry, and she's like, well, I could probably get your job here if you want to try it out. So like, all right, I'll try it out. And there's an ongoing joke because I walked in there and I did not fit the mold, Just like the way I talked, the way I wore, I was like, well, I adapted, and I was there for I gave it a good shot. I was there for like 2 years, and I don't think anything was a waste. I think everything in life is an opportunity, and everything in life is a learning moment. And I just learned at that point that was not what I wanted to be in. It's like I learned at that point where that's where I learned that, listen, I can't chase the dollar, and I got to stick with what I love, because that's what I was doing there. I remember like making phone calls, cold calling people at 8 o'clock at night, like, the fuck am I doing right now? It's like, sure. What? I wanted to rip my eyelids out. But it's pretty cool, though, because in this complex I was in, they had this basketball tournament every year, and the guy who owned the complex was a millionaire. So whichever company won the basketball tournament, they get an all-expense paid trip. So the 3 years I was there, I just happened to win every year. So I was making sure I was good. But I had the coolest story to go along with this. I don't know if I told this story. The coolest story in the world. We were playing in a tournament, and I wasn't going to go there, right? I was like, dude, it's Friday night. I've been at work. Like, I don't care about this game. So the team was playing, and this is when I sell my motorcycle, my Yamaha R1. So I'm on my bike, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go over there and see what's happening. So I rip up on my motorcycle. It's like straight out of a movie, right? It's like Days of Thunder. I'm Tom Cruise pulling up, right? So I rip up on the side of my motorcycle. I get off, and they're like, we're losing. And I just have my jeans on, my helmet. I take my helmet off, roll my jeans up. I get out there. I hit 5 consecutive three-pointers and win. And I get back on my bike and pull away. I was like, this might be the most defining moment of my life right now. Not going overseas, but this moment, I think, is going down in history as my defining moment.
As your winning moment?
My cool moment. Yeah.
The turning point.
My Tom Cruise moment. My Brad Pitt moment. Like Brad Pitt pulls up in like Thor with like his hair all long and his, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the movie, what's that Brad Pitt movie when he's the fighter?
It was Achilles.
No, that's Achilles got him.
Fight Club.
No, not Fight Club. What movie did you say? No. So it was like back in the day with like the Spartans.
He was Achilles.
Yeah. What's that movie called?
Troy.
So it's like when he's drunk and they wake him up to go fight the other guy, and he just takes a couple steps, 2 steps, stabs him in the ribs, and walks away. Yeah. Like that was my Achilles moment.
That's awesome. There it is.
All right. So then, anyways, sorry. So then it was like. So I think through that job, I connected with someone who was an acquaintance in the past. Not a friendly acquaintance, but just someone I knew of. And they had a gym, and they were like a small personal training studio. And they were selling it. They were getting out of it. And I was like, you want to buy it? And I was sitting there with Josh. I was like, I just want to, like, that's what I love doing. Like, that's what I want to get back into. I was like, and my wife, who always supports me, was just like, well, if you're going to do it now, because we don't have any kids. We don't have a crazy mortgage. So now's the time to kind of do it. and give it all you have and just see what happens. So that's what I did. Bought a personal training studio, ran like a boot camp personal training gym for like 2 years. Found CrossFit. Went to my CrossFit level 1, which Greg Glassman was still coaching them when I went, so that's pretty cool. Like my level 1 was Sherwood, Glassman, the attendees like me, the Bergerons, Tanya Wagner, Ben Kelly. So it's pretty cool.
Some of the OG crew.
Yeah, it was super. Not Joe DeGane, but
Alexander.
Joe Alexander. He was actually there taking it with me. Yeah. Like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, it was a really cool crew. Yeah, so I drove down to Virginia, drove back, switched my gym over to a CrossFit gym. Kind of right place, right time, where another gym in Milford was kind of closing down, so I got some members from there. But at that point, it was kind of like, if you had a gym with 80 members, you had a huge gym. Like when I opened up my gym, that was it. It was kind of like, it was super underground. Everything was a garage. Everything was like, one GHD, like broken pull-up bars that you make hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't these crazy rogue rigs. There wasn't like super like competition bumper plates everywhere. Nothing was fancy. It was kind of like a legit old school underground status. Like that's how it was when we first entered it. And there was like 3 gyms in Connecticut. And again, it was like if you had 60, 80 members, it was like, man, you're crushing it right now, right? So it's kind of like at that point, it's like you just get into it because you love it. There's no like, oh, I'm getting into a CrossFit gym because you make so much money. Like there's nothing like that back then. It's just like that's what you want to do. That's what kind of like you adapt to and you love, and you're just going to go for it. And that was kind of like my journey into CrossFit and CrossFit Milford. I mean, I remember like someone showed me the webpage one time, like before I ever had the gym. And I was kind of looking at it, I was like, push press, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, push jerk, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, split jerk, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And the next day I was like, what is this? Like,
This is stupid.
Yeah, I do this anyways. Like, whatever, you're not telling me nothing. And then I came back to it like a year later. And the first workout I did was G.I. Jane, 100 burpee pull-ups. Right? And I was just like, ugh.
Wheelhouse.
Yeah, I was like, wheelhouse, right? Like, this is pretty rough. And then, I think my kind of process was just like everybody else. Like it's kind of like you're stepping into an ice bath. Like you put one foot in, you're kind of like, I don't know, man, this is kind of cool, but I don't quite know yet, and then you kind of like slowly put the other foot in and step out. It's kind of like this back and forth approach for like some time. And then I think when I went to the level 1 and I heard Glassman talk, and I heard Sherwood talk and everything, I was like, man, this is it. That's kind of like, what caught me was the passion for fitness, was their passion. It's like you hear Coach talk and you're just like, yeah, you're like, this is it. It's like that passion and that love for just helping people and having this new movement. And that's where I was like, I got to be part of this, and that was it.
And now, fast forward, it's like 8th year of CrossFit Milford. Mm-hmm. Is that where you're at? So like 8 years. Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
And so now you have CrossFit Milford's moved how many times in the last 8 years? Twice? So this is
Only 2.
Only 2?
So move twice or three locations or 2 locations?
That we moved to or that we have?
That you've had.
Only 2.
Okay.
So I first started off in like a strip. I started off in a strip mall next to a strip club.
Okay.
So that would be interesting on like the Friday evening classes when you have like the drunk guys from the strip club like walking around, like looking in the mirror, and all the girls are like, Jay. I'm like, I don't know. These guys look pretty shady.
Come on in.
Yeah, so we got out of there, came over to the new facility.
That's awesome. And now, too, also throughout these years, you've had some, what's the right word? Some accomplishments in the competitive CrossFit side. Mm-hmm. And what are some of those for anybody that may not know you?
So we've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of good athletes, where we've had athletes at the CrossFit Games every single year. Our team took 2nd in the world. We routinely have probably about 10 to 15 individuals qualifying for regionals every year. This year we had 2 teams qualify for regionals, 8 individuals, and we have 9 masters athletes moving on to the next stage, of which 4 are all ranked in the top 10 in the world. So yeah,
you're pretty good. So you're pretty good at what you do.
We're fortunate.
Better than average.
we're fortunate,
So obviously, with having these accolades in the competitive CrossFit scene, it's the program design and the programming side is, where you have flourished and things of that nature. What are some things when you're writing these programs? Because obviously, with that sort of accomplishments in the CrossFit space as a sport, it's not an accident that you get there all the time. Maybe 1 year, maybe here or there or anything like that. But obviously, year after year, you've shown success. And what are the things that you kind of go through when you're writing a program for somebody for a competitive athlete, and things that you go through? Because I'm sure there's times too where if they're coming to you as a competitive athlete and trying to get to that next level, they're already pretty good at some things, and you probably get a little concerned with not messing up those things either. So kind of, can you walk through that process, and what do you go into writing programs and stuff like that?
So I thought about this a lot, and at first, so I'll backtrack, and I'll first start off with my new thought process, and then I'll backtrack to kind of some more scientific stuff. But what do you think is the single most important thing when working with an athlete?
I think it's the relationship between the coach and the athlete, me personally.
What do you think it is, Paul?
I think making sure the athlete's happy.
Yeah, it's trust. It's trust. Anybody can write stuff on paper. Anybody with a brain can read periodization and know the difference between undulating and block periodization and understand stress parameters of barbells and gymnastics, and anybody can put that together, right? But it comes down to trust. It comes down to you trusting yourself as far as what you can do and what you can put down, and not getting in the game of like seeing, the social media game, this person's doing this and this person's doing this and we're not doing this, so I need to do that. And it comes down to the athlete trusting you. If the athlete trusts you and you trust yourself, then you can form a great relationship, and you can make sure that the athlete has fun, and you can progress them over time if they have the specific attributes to get where they need to be. And I think that's the most important thing from a programmer, is being able, and a coach, is being able to develop that. And if you don't develop that, then if the athlete doesn't trust you, then they'll never really get where you want them to go. If you don't trust yourself, then you're always going to be changing a plan and not keeping it to a plan, because everything is a plan, everything takes time. So I think that is number one.
Just a quick segue to that. I think because anybody that's watching this may be a coach and may have some questions about this. What are some things that you've done to not only build trust in athletes, but also trust in yourself to do both sides of that?
I think with myself, it's a continual process of learning. It's a continual process of talking to as many people as I know outside of CrossFit, in all different fields. And then it's with myself, it's understanding that it's okay to mess up. Like, it's okay to not have the right answer. It's okay to put something down and be like, oh, well, that didn't quite go as planned. It's like, that's fine. Like, that's programming. But being able to recognize that and being able to be like, all right, yeah, like, in your head, you don't need to tell your athlete that, but be like, okay, like, that wasn't quite the right thing, or that was too much. So now, but being able to, and the know-how of how to make the adjustment and the adaptation moving forward from that, so they stay in the right path,
Sure.
and it's listening, it's the ability to listen. And I look at it like, there are coaches I respect so much. Like, obviously I feel like these are kind of silly answers, because like someone asks you, 3 people who you can have dinner with, and you say like Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King, and Gandhi. Like, all right, great. Like, way to think hard on that
You're
one.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I feel like, Dean Smith and John Wooden, those guys, coaches who were like so smart and so humble, but were so fine with not knowing the answer, and being able to adapt to what their athletes needed. Not being like, oh, well, I'm the high and almighty, and if you don't do what I do or do as I say, then you're wrong, And so those are kind of like the styles that I look up to and that I try to emulate. I went off on a tangent, sorry.
No, it's
I think
good.
that's it.
I think
That's right there.
I think that's awesome. That's good.
And then I think from a programming standpoint, it's like just understanding, understanding how to write programs, understanding how to write barbell work and Olympic lifting work, because it is specific. You're looking at total volume and total load, and because of the amount of stress it's going to put on the joints of the shoulders, the hips, the ankles, and knees. Because I think one thing that people don't take into account is they say, okay, we're going to follow like this squat program or this snatch program, and we're going to follow or this program, right? Oh, but then we're going to do all these workouts throughout the week. So you got to take into account, all right, how many times you squatting in like this Metcon you're doing on Friday night, or how many times you working on muscle ups and gymnastics work coupled with snatches. Because I think my argument is that every time you lift, so if you pull from the ground, whether you're power cleaning or power snatching or etc., like you're pulling from the ground, right? And then if you're squatting and you're front squatting, you're putting more stress in the midline. And then you come back and you're doing 100 thrusters, 100 pull-ups, 100 burpees, and whatever else, like you're just crushing your body. So I think being able to look at the effect of what you're trying to do at a specific point in the year, and understanding like, okay, so if I have my year and I'm going from, what's the date today? April. So if I'm going to April to February, right? So we're talking about an opens athlete. Like I said, like right now, like it's not about like people in the opens. They're like, oh, gun ho. It's like no. It's like right now, like you are now starting your beginning. So now it's the accumulation. So now let's rebalance, let's restructure, let's fix imbalances, let's work on different planes of movement, frontal, sagittal, transverse. Let's work on different loading parameters, concentric, eccentric, isometric. Let's work on different kind of movement patterns, strongman, right, which Paul has lots of experience with of rehabbing his back. Barbell work, gymnastics work. Let's work on different energy systems. Just create balance. And then we say, all right, now we're going to segue into the intensification phase to like September, October. But now what you're essentially doing now is building your ability to do that stuff later, right? So why can some people do 300 pull-ups a week and be fine? Other people do 75 pull-ups and they have shoulder impingement, right? It's because they're not building the structural integrity. You can't jump through the unsexy to get to the sexy and think that it's going to pay off in the long run. Yeah. It's like saying, okay.
I like that. Yeah. Can't jump through the unsexy to get to the sexy.
You look at any other sport. You don't do that in any other sport. If I'm playing basketball, right, I'm not going to say, okay, I'm never going to shoot a jump shot within inside of 5 feet. I'm never going to work on my left hand. I'm just going to do crossovers, shoot threes, and work on my dunks, and then expect to be good. Mm-hmm. You can't jump through the fundamentals and think at some point you're going to magically be like this superstar. And I think that's what happens in our sport, is that people jump through and be like, all right, I'm just going to max out snatch. I'm going to squat heavy. I'm going to do a ton of gymnastics EMOMs because that's what, so-and-so's doing. He's ranked second in the world, so it must work. Yeah, it works for him because he did everything else. Yeah. He did the fundamentals. He did all the hard training earlier. And I think this is a story I tell all the time. I'm sure Paul's heard it when he was here last year. But I talk about Felipe Lopez in the sport of basketball. How many people know about Felipe Lopez? Do you know who Felipe Lopez is?
Only because you told me this.
Only because I told you so.
Yeah, we are the only two people in this gym right now that know about Felipe Lopez.
So here's my story to the world, right? Felipe Lopez. Do you know who Felipe Lopez is? Yeah, you're a sports superstar. Yeah. Someone doesn't know who he is. So let me tell you.
Tell us the story, please.
Let me tell you about Felipe Lopez. In high school, Felipe Lopez was dubbed the next Michael Jordan, as many athletes are. He was the next calling. He was this unbelievable high school athlete. When he went to the high school American game, he dropped like 40 points, crushed it. Went to St. John's in college. Then what? Why? And he's on like some 30-30 special, and it's like, well, it's kind of like what happened type deal, right? And it's because when you get to a certain level, and that does not matter what sport it is, whether it's CrossFit, basketball, baseball, whatever, everybody is good. Everybody's talented, everyone's strong, everyone's fast. It's who spent enough time on the little things. Who spent enough time on doing the unwanted, the unnecessary stuff that's going to put you in a position to be successful in the nasty stuff with the higher level athletes, right? That's what it comes down to. So it's having that diligence in the discipline as a programmer to do that and to stand fast by that in the early phase, and then the athlete being able to trust you and be like, yeah, like today I'm going to work on, half kneeling bottoms up presses and sideline dumbbell extensions, and I'm going to push a sled because I need to do this so I can do 50 muscle ups, 50 toes to bar, and 100 pull-ups in a workout, right? It's like, so you got to be able to see the forest through the trees in any sport in the early phases of your training to be successful. And if you can't, that's cool, but don't expect to be successful.
And I think a lot of times, like, I have athletes that come back to me And the first couple months that we worked together, they're like, "You're having me doing all this boring shit. I'm not getting any better." And then 4 months down the road, I throw them a test week, and every single thing. I'm not gonna toot my own horn, but they're progressing much faster than they have because they took a step back for a couple months and worked on the right things.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people that are studying program design and coaching people are starting to learn.
Yeah, absolutely 100%.
That's awesome. So also too now, for you personally now as a coach, now is your time when you start gearing people up for regionals in the games. So a lot of your time goes into that and making sure that people are prepared for that. What are some things that like you're doing now that you might have not done with your regionals and games athletes 2 to 3 years ago?
More volume. And I look at Paul's looking at me. Well, not.
No, I can't. I just know last year.
Regional, not games.
Yeah,
So Paul's talking about like leading up to the games. Yeah, Paul was doing a ton of volume, right? Yeah, absolutely. But and I look at it like this. So I had a conversation with an elite level 800 meter sprinter, and I'm talking about like she's from Nigeria, like she was on their like Olympic team. She was sponsored by New Balance. Like I'm talking about like a minute 45 800 runner, right?
Like me and you.
Crazy.
Like me.
And I was talking about her training when she was hitting it hard. She would run like 30 to 50 miles a week training for one 800 meter sprint. You know, if she was doing like a 5K event, she'd be up 50 to 80 miles a week. Michael Phelps spends like 13 to 15,000 hours in a pool over the span of a year for his 10-second event.
Sure.
So with the athletes that are prepared for it, it's supplementing in appropriate volume with what they need. So some of my guys right now are doing higher volume stuff between barbell, gymnastics, and conditioning. And then we back off. But you have to be diligent and know, like, okay, like, the best way to do that is to only do it with people that you talk to every single day, right? Because it's like, I'll look at, like, the way they walk into the gym. I'll look at the way they walk to the chalk bucket. I'll pay attention to the way they shake my hand. There's always telltale signs of people overreaching.
Yeah.
And if you don't notice the overreaching, then they're going to become overtrained, and then they're in a bad spot for a long time.
And when you say overreaching, is that a bad thing?
No. Overreaching is a good thing for people in a competition state. You want them to kind of hit it hard, get the adaptation, and then back off. And then look to kind of increase that baseline level of fitness to that. But it's a bad thing if you stay there too long, right? So you have to know what overreaching is, what it looks like, and then how to back off from it.
So, like, with a competition, like, I know most people, like, I know 3 weeks out from the games last year and about 2 or 3 weeks out from regionals, I was beat up, I was tired, and that's when we pulled back. And then at these events, I was at the fittest I had been all year for both.
Yeah, I remember you specifically, like, there was one time Paul before regionals like couldn't snatch 205. He was just beat up, right? And then we backed off, and it was like at regionals he looks at me, he goes, I'm snatching fucking 225 right now, and he crushed it. Just crushed it, right? And it was kind of like, and then at the game, same thing. Like he comes out and he clean jerks 325, right?
Yeah.
325. It's like in the heat, you know, stress, everything out there, just crushed it. And you didn't hit that in a long time, right? So yeah, it's like being able to overreach and then back off, and then it's like the athlete's like just ready to put their head through a brick wall at any moment. Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Jay, where could people contact you, get more information about you?
Is that our closer? Are we done?
We're gonna close it down. That was, I think
it was good.
Yeah, I think we got some
Guys,
wonderful.
I'm ready to go for like another 20 minutes.
You ready to go for another 2 hours?
I'm ready to go. Let's fire these questions. I'm not giving you that. Fire some questions at me, Poppy. Let's talk about Angelo. For those of you guys who don't know about Angelo,
First of all, I want everyone to look at Angelo right now. If you
Angelo is the athlete who. Sorry, I see my wife called me. She didn't. Angelo was hitting it hard training-wise a couple years ago. Angelo would do anything for you.
Oh yeah.
There you
750 meter row repeats.
go. Anything you need.
Man, remember those?
I was very disciplined when it was my time to try to be disciplined. I think that's the best way to say it.
This isn't a question, but this is in my mind, so we'll talk about it. So I think, sorry guys.
It's okay.
Am I hijacking the podcast right now?
Own it, kid. It's your show.
It's your show.
All right. Well, I know you got a lot on the plate right now today.
It's okay.
So
Go ahead.
So there's lots of business seminars out there run by people who don't own gyms. So I think if you're a new gym owner, just be aware of that. And I think also new gym owners, people will tell you can't run a competitive gym and have a good community, which is wrong because that's said by people who can't do either. So what you have to focus on is proper counterbalance. I don't think there's any such thing as balance. I think there's only counterbalance.
Yeah.
If you spend time with competitors and programming, you have to make sure that you counterbalance that with your time on the community and the people who pay your bills and your family and everything that's going to keep your life in a good progression. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent. Oh, I think because it happened to me, right? So obviously the opens here get really tough for me because of the athletes, the teams, individuals, people who pull a lot from me, which can be very emotionally draining, over like
Sure.
5 weeks. So because of that, I think it definitely hinders the community. So now it's kind of like the time where you have to revamp kind of like what matters, and if you talk about the community, what matters to the community, and I don't think it's about like how many cool things you can do. It's about how much excitement you can generate within inside the community. How much excitement and passion can you generate to people that walk through the door. So for gym owners out there, I think focus on that. Focus on excitement. Focus on engagement. Focus on everybody that walks through your door every single day, and make sure they feel cared about and engaged in. And if you can do that, and then you can provide proper counterbalance if you want to attack other avenues. But it comes down to proper prioritization of where you want to be and what you want to look at. Like if you want, like if you wanted to have a small gym with a couple competitors and do all that, cool, great, do that, right? But if you want to have a gym with community and also have a competitive environment, you can absolutely do that. Don't let people tell you can't do that. Just make sure you apply the proper attention to all areas and not let it get away from you.
I could tell that was on your mind, and I'm glad you got that off your chest. I'm glad the world heard that. That was good. That's awesome.
Don't hit me with the closure. Don't you hit me with the
close.
closure.
Guys, I'm extremely sorry
We're
to say
closing.
this is our time to wrap up with Jason. Obviously, we're extremely comfortable with Jason, and he is with us, as you can see by the fact that we let him hijack the last 12 minutes and 46 seconds of this podcast.
I think what's cool is that if I hijack it again, Paul will get a kick out of this because Angelo can get very stressed out.
What do you know?
I live a structured life, and that's all I'm going to say.
Paul, let's talk.
No, I'm the one that has to deal with him the rest of the day. So this nervous laugh.
I think if you're a new gym owner, I think if you're looking to no, hear me out.
All right.
So I think you guys should take advantage of Angelo. I think Angelo does a lot of things on Snapchat. He does a lot of things on social media, and I think that he has a really good finger on the pulse of the social media game. So I think like if you are listening to this podcast, you should follow Angelo, and or pay him to have him mentor you on social media and running a gym. Because I've talked to a lot of people out there. I don't know too many people that kind of get innovative with stuff the way he does. And I think if you're looking for amazing coaches, you can
Carry on.
I think if you're looking for
Carry on.
I think if you're looking for
You can keep talking now.
Keep it going.
if you're looking for coaches, definitely you guys should pay attention to Paul and Angelo, what they have to say. Extremely smart guys. They've had a great mentor. So
Big ups to the mentor. Find a mentor. No, in all honesty, though, I know we didn't talk much about this. I think finding some mentor or a mentor that you could learn from is essential to any success in any realm. I don't think anybody ever does it alone, and if anybody says they did it alone, they're lying. So I'm a big fan of finding that.
who's next on the schedule for today?
We have a lot to do. We have Adam here. We're rolling all day.
I love
here.
Adam.
Yeah.
I
This
love
is
Adam.
our setup here. Thanks for Jason letting us.
Guys, I'm sure Adam would
Milford.
talk about it, but Adam was a professional baseball player.
We're going into that.
Yeah, we're going into that.
Oh, nice.
The man walked in with baseball socks on. I know you guys can't see this. He is ready to field some grounders.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I feel his eyes on the back of my neck.
Yeah, that's
waiting for
'cause
me
that's
to
where they
finish,
are, yeah.
Waiting for me
Yep.
to finish.
All right, so Jay, give them a quick closing. Where can people find you if they?
So let me tell you something. I'm scared.
No, turn it off.
Allostasis. So
return to homeostasis as fast as you can, and then re-stress. Thanks.
Okay.
So Jason, you can walk by Pam. Yeah, Pam's 70 years old, kicking butt. Say hi, Pam.
Hello.
Okay, so social media, Instagram, we have our CrossFit Milford competitors page, we have the CrossFit Milford page, and we have my own page, Jason Leydon. My page, you find kind of tips, and I'll talk about programming, and I'll talk about different aspects of working with athletes there. Facebook, Jason Leydon, and there's CrossFit Milford, and then obviously the webpage that we have.
Good, Paul. Where can they find out about
Us?
our website? Or
Us?
our website? Yeah. Our site?
Where can they find about Not All About Fitness? www.notallaboutfitness.com and at Not All About Fitness on Instagram, and soon Angela's favorite, Snapchat.
It's all about.
And subscribe on iTunes. Good talk. Later.
Click on all the links anywhere they're popping up. Paul knows where they're going. Thank you. Please subscribe to all our stuff.